Hey everybody, if you're still following the build for this long, thank you. It's actually starting to wrap up. Today we're going to go over a lot of the electrical. So we did a couple things, right? We've got our chassis harness, and because we're running a TDI motor with an ECU, we need all the electrical to be squared away in the chassis. You always want a good ground and a real solid 12 volts when you're running anything electronic. So we've got a computer, we got gauges, we got LED bulbs. Electrical system needs to be in tip-top shape if we want to daily drive a resto mod like this, right? So let's go over a couple things we did just to clean stuff up. We still got to go through and wrap everything, but we're starting to pin out the chassis harness, delete what we don't need, and we're going to show you guys some upgrades that we did. You see I got my blue tape. This helps me a lot as I'm going through, picking through the harness. I'll just leave little notes, identify stuff. Let's get back to what we made. New battery cables, new ground cables. Now, if you look kind of in this general vicinity, I know it's kind of in the shadow, but I like to add stuff for simplicity, ease of service. You guys know my routine, all that good stuff. So we made some improvements. Right here, we've got a constant 12 volt power, okay? A power lug. It's a 3/8 stud. It's a good place to pick up 12 volt power, keeps the top of your battery clean. You guys will notice on these posts, like I said, serviceability, right? I like battery terminals with the wing nut on it. It allows you to quickly service stuff, take stuff apart. You can get them plenty tight just by giving them a real good snug with your thumbs, okay? Now you'll notice on the ground side, okay, we're running a computer. I can't stress it enough. We got to have good grounds. So right here, if you look, this is just a metric bolt, okay, that we TIG welded in to the chassis to give us a really strong, really robust ground, okay? So we've got our battery grounded to our chassis with a welded ground lug, and then we have another 2-gauge cable, excuse me, going from the chassis ground lug to the starter bolt, which is a great place to ground anything. Ideally, something that's a high draw, like a starter, you want to get your ground as close to it as possible. Every little bit helps. I like electrical stuff that doesn't give you any issues down the road. Another thing we did, on the old harness, there were fusible links in the harness. For those of you unfamiliar with a fusible link, it's kind of a sacrificial part. If there's an overload on the system or a short, it'll just burn up and basically break the circuit and the wire, so you can't get a fire besides the little one in the fusible link. So this is what we did. We got a couple more breakers to add in. We're going to put some relays and stuff down here, and I'll explain why in a minute. But we put these 30 amp auto reset breakers in, and here's the reason why. If there is a severe draw in the system or there is a short, you don't want to be left stranded. If a fusible link burns up, that's kind of it. You're stuck. So the nice thing is these are auto reset breakers. If it senses that the draw has gone down, there's not such a spike in the amperage, it'll reset, reconnect the circuit. So these are a great replacement for fusible links. Get yourself some of these auto reset breakers. I get all my electrical components, little terminals, stuff like that, from a company called Waytech. They're awesome. They have every little automotive type of deal for electrical wiring you could possibly want. All right, so we've got our hot 12 volts here. We've got our welded ground stud. We've got a breaker to replace the fusible link for the power that feeds back into the cab for your fan, your air conditioning, basically your power up inside the cabin. We went through, additionally, added some nice dedicated grounds for the headlights and stuff. Again, these are LED headlights. When you're dealing with anything like that, you don't want any finicky grounds. These are the ones Chase had. We're going to clean them up. There's a little overspray on them, obviously, from the previous owner. We're going to go through and detail these headlights, but they're pretty sweet. High beam, low beam. And this center bar, when you put on your driving lights, it lights up white. If you activate your turn signals, it flashes amber. It's pretty cool. Now, for those of you guys, a little tip, if you're retrofitting LED lights into an older vehicle, most likely you are going to need some resistors on the turn signal circuit, okay? They're those little gold things right here up by the headlights. Here's the reason for them. LEDs have such a low amperage draw, they're efficient. They're not an actual filament bulb, they're a light emitting diode, okay? Because they're so efficient, there's not enough amperage draw to activate the flasher for the turn signal. It's almost like it doesn't even recognize it. So by putting these 6 ohm resistors in line with the turn signal circuit, we got our LEDs to work and flash amber for our turn signal, which is great. Another thing too, I told you guys we're doing a custom grill. We're not going to use this socket, but we're going to integrate something super cool behind the grill. I also wanted to have park lights and corner turn signals. I think it'll be a cool detail. We're going to hide it behind the grill we got, but it'll just be a little extra custom touch. As far as electrical up here, that's kind of it. I will show you guys this back here. This is our 12 volt constant power direct from the battery, right? This lug we're going to tuck back here. Now this is going to be for down the road if Chase wants to make any electrical additions. We're going to make that post basically be armed with a relay to be a keyed 12 volts. So if Chase needs to add any accessories down the road, rather than trying to pick through the harness and splice into an accessory wire, Chase is going to have a relayed 12 volts keyed on right there. So that'll help if he wants to do anything else down the road, electrical wise, up in the engine bay. That's a nice touch. We're also going to put 3 relays back here. We've got a relay to drive the fan, a relay power for the ECU, and even though it's a lift pump and it's not a huge draw, we are running electrical wire all the way back to the car. I'm going to add a 3rd relay in for the lift pump down back by the tank. That's the electrical for the chassis. That's the stock harness. Now let's talk about gauges and I guess the ECU harness. We got it all back here. Okay, so much to talk about. Let's talk about the harness first. Got it back from S&P. Obviously haven't installed it yet, but from what I see, I'm really happy with it. Looks like they replaced wires, cleaned wires up. The harness wasn't dirty, greasy, anything else like that. This is what I really like too. This is so convenient. They tagged everything. I got my glow plug light, my oil light, right? I've got everything pinned out and tagged, which is great. You know, grounds marked to the body, all the OEM connectors on it, and stage 1 tune. Like I said, motor's mildly modified, so nothing too crazy, but this car's gonna scoot. Something else we got from S&P, definitely worth saving the time. Not a complicated part to fabricate at all, but drive-by wire adapter. You're gonna need one of these for the ECU, for the fuel control at the pump, but this is just a sweet little bracket from S&P. Looking forward to just putting it in, and it's one less part we gotta make. Now, as far as parts we did make, gauges and gauge clusters. So we got the glow shift gauges. They're really bitchin', white-faced. You're gonna be able to change them, the colors. Also like that S&P gave us these gauge hoods. These are gonna sit in the middle right here. So the idea was we'll put the gauge hoods kind of canted towards the passenger side to stop any reflection or glare, because Chase doesn't have any brow above the gauges. Now as far as our main gauges, they're gonna go right in here. Obviously we have to trim this. We are gonna have to move the headlight switch, little up, little over. There's room to do it. We just gotta clear our bottom gauge. Now, as far as a finish, obviously this isn't an identical match to the texture in the plastic. However, we were able to accomplish something kind of close by using a combination of matte black paint and rubberized undercoating. We just hit it super high speed, little short bursts to get a real fine texture on it. This is what we did for the undercoating on the chassis, so you can build this up really thick. But I just wanted a change in both gloss and texture, and you can see it kind of has that speckled look to it, much like this fake grain in the plastic. So we did that to be a little bit more subtle. You can see When you put it over the plastic dash, it's not bad for a rattle can solution. It's a decent match, especially inside. Let's go over a little bit of details on the gauges, or excuse me, on the gauge panel. Actually, let's just flip it around. Okay, so you'll notice up here, right, turn signal indicators. I've got little green lenses that just drop in. They're plastic. They're actually for turn signals. Guys, this kind of stuff is available on Amazon. This is just a basic filament style gauge bulb. Probably for the last 70 years they've been like this. Obviously not newer stuff, but real basic bulb. This is just turned to a 1/2 inch. This grommet fits inside there. They just press in. So when we got our green lens behind there, these are going to be our turn signal indicators. So Chase is going to have that. You'll also see back here, it's a spot for a smaller LED. Guys, these are just more stuff on Amazon. Small, cool little parts, different lights. The blue one's on the bench for the high beam. But prime example, all right? Let's look right here. Glow plug light. Got a little yellow light right there. We'll probably put it in the dash above one of these gauges in the center panel, or we'll put it in the main. Just depends on Chase's preference. But it's little details like that in the electrical system that make a huge difference in the car. Makes it more enjoyable to drive too. When you have a good idea about what the car's vitals are, you can drive it with more confidence. As far as the gauge arrangement, obviously speedo and tack, but the two other, I don't know what you want to say. The two other main sources of info I thought should be up on the dash were boost and oil pressure. Kind of how hard are we pushing the motor, and does it have the blood pressure to survive? So I thought that was important to have right in your face when you're driving. And then your other three gauges, we got fuel level, engine temp, and volts. So those will be tucked in the center area, and you've got your four main gauges right up here. Obviously, we got to trim this out to fit a little bit, but this gauge panel I intentionally made so it fits below this red detail. I don't want to obstruct any of that. Other than that, guys, we're pretty darn close to firing this up. Exhaust is all handled, all the hangers are in, fuel system's all done. Dump some oil and put a filter in it so we could crank it over. And did I leave the key in it? I guess we're gonna find out. Yeah, guys, it's ready to go. So we're gonna get the ECU in, we're gonna get the gauges in, we'll test everything, and then it's just time for fluids and be driving it soon. Should be really nice. Right, Ruby?